All right, thank you everyone for coming to the entrepreneurship panel. And first I want to thank Adrian and the whole Mixer team for having us here today to talk about entrepreneurship in Winston-Salem with this great group of panelists. So first off, I want to introduce myself. My name is Amy Bastian. I'm with NCIDEA. NCIDEA is really happy to be a sponsor for this event. We are an organization that supports entrepreneurship in North Carolina. We give grants to entrepreneurs, we have programs for entrepreneurs, and we also support the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I will give a little pitch at the end for some of our upcoming programmatic content and grants, but first, we'll let the panel introduce themselves.
Hello everyone, my name is Gina Carr. I am co-founder and CEO of Rent Assured. And Rent Assured is a lightweight cloud-based platform for landlords and property managers to actually help them get on the same page with their tenants.
Hello everyone, my name is Bobby Srivastav. I'm a Chief Product Officer and co-founder of Benekiva. And Benekiva is a platform that helps bridge the gap between insurance carriers, policyholders, and beneficiaries for claims automation and asset retention.
Hi everyone, I'm Janet McKay Smith and I'm the co-founder of Gifted, and Gifted is like the red box for gift cards. So it's a mobile app and kiosk system that allows you to custom print gift cards on demand.
Hi all, my name is Josh Gimble. I'm the CEO and founder of Live Well Nutrition. We are a plant-based company offering the bee's knees of vegan protein powder, and we are bridging the gap between quality and transparency in the murky world of supplements.
Hi everyone, my name is Carl Turner. I'm the founder of SwipeBuy, and what we're doing is we turn restaurant into virtual drive-thrus. So basically you can order on an app, and we provide for local restaurants an aggregator for curbside service so that you can get the food you like the fastest fashion in suburban America.
Great. So I'm going to get kicked off on well, this whole panel will be positive, but let's celebrate the Winston ecosystem for entrepreneurs. I want to hear what makes it a good place for a business to start or to relocate? What are the resources available? And would love, and again, it doesn't have to go straight down the line, but if it works out that way, that's fine. But, you know, and what are you a part of? Or what are you, because I know some of you are part of Winston Starts, and some of you are going to be part of some exciting new accelerator programs, have been recently received grants. So we'd just love to hear a little bit more about what resources you're taking advantage of, and even if they're ones that you are not particularly taking advantage of, what do you know is out there and that's really beneficial maybe to some of the people in the room?
Okay, I'll kick it off. So our journey started really technically over at Flywheel. We had a startup weekend with Bobby and I, and we really wanted to validate our idea. We had both had some really horrible experiences being landlords, and after crying and thinking of we know the problem for sure, what's the solution? When we put our heads together, we came up with something. And so we went to Startup Weekend, and we gained some great resources out of that. And then we moved forward, and also with Flywheel, went to New Ventures Accelerator. So that is where we received some funding for equity and started working on our company. From there, we entered Launch Lab in Greensboro and received some resources. We recently won the NCIDEA grant, micro grant, and we are housed in Winston Starts. So Bobby and I, to move our company forward, have really reached out to all the leaders in the ecosystem and customers and just said, hey, we need support. And we were pointed in the right direction. We were uplifted. And not to sound too mushy today, but that feeling of when you talk about your idea and someone looks at you and says, not only do I believe in you, I believe in your idea. They get behind you, they grab their friends and get behind you, and then the community uplifts you. That feeling really drives entrepreneurs. It drove me, it motivated me. If I could bottle that feeling and give it to every entrepreneur out there, I would probably be rich, honestly.
Next idea.
Yeah, so I would love to do that. So I'm on a chair, not a soapbox, but my give that I want to say, or one takeaway that I would give you, one, thank you. Thank you for helping be a part of our story and help moving us forward. We're going to stay in the ecosystem. We're going to make you proud, and then hopefully help grow the economy here. And then secondly, help. You are an ingredient in that solution or tonic. Is that too corny? You guys are part of that gives the entrepreneurs like us that feeling of forward momentum, that we can do it, even on the hardest days, right? We can reach out to our ecosystem. I can call Amy. I can go to Peter, Andrea, Steve Leinberg at Winston Starts, reach out to Luann, Margaret, and just say, hey, what do you think about this? This is a challenge. This is a hurdle. I need to jump it. How can you help us? So we've utilized a lot of resources. The micro grant, we have a new website revamping. Follow us on Facebook. And come check out our website at the end of next week. Sorry, it turned into a sales.
So for me, I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey and how the different players have helped. So I started my journey in 2015 when my daughter, Savannah, was 6 months old. And at that point, we had an idea of how we get out of the form business that parents experienced. So at that point, Docsmore was formed. And what we were finding is both my husband and I are in corporate. And we have no idea what the entrepreneurship ecosystem looks like. The name that I was given was, you need to contact Peter Marsh. He's the startup guy, just go find him. And I literally hunted him down after an event in a parking lot, and I said, I met you once, you don't know me, but I have a company, I've created a product, I want your advice. So that's how I joined Flywheel. And Flywheel has been with me since the beginning when I launched Docsmore. From Docsmore in 2016, later part of 2016, I met a couple of founders in Iowa that we have roots in Iowa, and they had a problem that we love solving. Once again, there was a forms component, that document component, so we were able to leverage our learnings from Docsmore and build Benekiva. And then in 2017, this is my sister from another Mr. We are also clients of each other for Docsmore and her previous company, or her current company also, BOGO. And she came to me with the problem. And once again, that problem had one piece in common, which is the documents piece. But I decided to come on board as we both are founders of Rent Assured. As the CTO. So when you think about all the journey that we've experienced, Flywheel for me was the start. Then we came to know about Startup Weekend. Then Winston Starts has been amazing for Rent Assured. The Venture Cafe ecosystem has been extremely helpful for us from Benekiva perspective, because now we're partnering with Boston. We are getting invited to speak at the Venture Cafe in Boston, and that's through the Venture Cafe network, just the networking there. So for entrepreneurs, I think if you have an idea, find somebody that can help you get attached to that ecosystem, and then you'll find your home within that ecosystem.
So I have a little bit of a different story. My story starts at Salem College because I've been in corporate for 13 years, and I decided to go back to school and get a degree in business at Salem College. And originally I was planning to major in marketing, but decided to change over to entrepreneurship. From there, with my very first entrepreneurship class was with Allison Francisco, and part of our project, our end of the semester project, was to develop a pitch deck. We had to pitch an idea and develop a pitch deck by the end of the project, or the end of the semester. And so we were kind of toying around with some ideas throughout the semester, and so at the end of the semester she said, well, you can skip the exam if you go pitch at Techstars, even just participate and you can skip the exam. So I was like, anything to get out of an exam. So that's what I did. I went to Techstars, I pitched, we had 54 hours to develop a business model. So my team and I developed that. We ended up winning first place and crowd favorite during Techstars, and from that it really opened the door. So it was a choice for us whether we were going to continue in the ecosystem or not, and we decided to continue, and we went into Launch Lab 101 in Greensboro at CoLab, and then from there we kind of worked on our business off and on at the Center for Women in Entrepreneurship at Salem College, and we met some great mentors. Gina is actually one of our mentors. Alan here at Mixer is one of our mentors, and then Allison Francisco at Salem College. And that's what you need, is the advocates behind you to say you have a great idea, like you were saying. You have a great idea. You need somebody that will go and advocate for you and also help you make those connections. We were just doing a tour of Mixer, and she said, oh, I've got a connection for this, and I've got a connection. So every time you find the little hurdle, it's talking to somebody and telling them what your hurdle is, and they can kind of hook you up with the right person. But also, as part of that program, we had to go on Thursday nights to Venture Cafe with Karen Barnes, and that's how we learned how to network with people, and that's how we met other people within the ecosystem and investors, and even we just attended a workshop on patents, which is something that we'll need for our business. So it's kind of putting yourself out there and saying, here's what my idea is, here's what I need to make this idea happen, and showing up to events. And a lot of these events are free, so there's really no reason why you shouldn't go to those. But then from there, we've kept working on our idea, and we were recently accepted into the new venture program at Flywheel. So as of last week, we've been participating in that and just developing our idea and learning from people. And that's one thing, is to listen to what people are saying, adapt your business to what you need, and what they're the experts. So let them give you advice, take that advice, and then develop your business from there. So.
So my story is also different than everyone else's here, in that my company actually started out in Philadelphia, PA, and that's sort of where our MVP, or proof of concept, took form. And my sister and co-founder, Marissa, moved to Winston-Salem about this time last year, and so our team sort of split in half at that point. And I came down and was doing some, preliminary networking, trying to get her established in the community here, and quickly, found Flywheel was the first organization I sort of got my foot in the door. I met Adrian Smith there, who's, I believe, the director at Flywheel. And quickly, after talking with Adrian, he sort of opened the door to me about all the resources that are available here in Winston and in the state of North Carolina. And I think one of the things that sort of makes Winston-Salem unique is, I'll come back to the word community, and I think that it's, coming from a big city and then coming here, it's more about those interpersonal connections and how, people are able to help one another. And I think that sort of interpersonal communication and that networking, it seems to be more of a, I'll say it seems to be flourishing here more so than in Philadelphia. And I think that's what sort of drove my interest and curiosity to maybe, look into, what can we do here as a company? Is Winston-Salem going to be, fertile ground for us? And after looking a little bit further and doing some more networking, it really is a great place to start and grow a business here. So with that, through Adrian, actually, I believe, met Amy at NCIDEA, and we were lucky to get the crowdfunding grant, which we are actively pursuing now in terms of raising capital. We're also just starting at New Ventures Accelerator, which will help us to build our connections and our network here, and ultimately our infrastructure and grow our business. So.
For me, I think the story is again also a little different. So I'm originally actually from Berlin, Germany. And I came this community to study. So I came here in 2013 to Wake Forest University as an undergrad. I studied there my 4 years, and in the last year I kind of had the idea for like Swipe By, what we have a company now. But what I first did is I leveraged the system there, right? I was in the business school, I leveraged the entrepreneurship department, but I think the one connection here is I was then introduced to Peter Marsh. And he was then the person who I met first in Winston-Salem, in the outside the Wake Forest network, and he pointed me to a bunch of people and really made a bunch of first connections. Then for us, we were really fortunate to win the NCIDEA seed grant back in 2017, which helped us really get off the ground, and especially gave us some nice leverage for brand recognition and so on, being, hey, we are more established. People, if NCIDEA believes in this, there must be something behind it. Then we were part of Flywheel, used really Flywheel to get started and get going. and then went into Winston Starts as the initial cohort. And Winston Starts here is an incubator, you could say, in the GMAC building, and has really amazing resources with mentorship, with office space, and was a great community behind you. But I can really just echo what everyone else said, is what kind of, again, I have no family here, I'm on a visa, everyone is in Germany, but what made me stay in this area here, made me start my company, is really the community and the network of people. Like, if you have one person and you have a need, you will probably within one hop or two hops will find a person here that can help you with it, and will help you with it, and sometimes will help you more than you even want. But that's but that's a good thing, because like, it's not where because I think it's an upcoming ecosystem and everyone really believes in it, and we're creating events like we have right now, and panels like we have here, and everyone is really trying to make Winston-Salem work and make entrepreneurship fly here. And that is a great environment to be in that early on, and being like at the roots of, I think, something great that's happening here.
So it's one of the things that I'm hearing. I know everyone has their different story, which is great. One of the things hearing is that reaching out to people, though that may be uncomfortable, that people take your calls, they meet with you. And that's one of the things that I found in Durham as well, and I think is maybe just in North Carolina versus maybe some other states or big cities where maybe it's a little bit harder. So it sounds like even if you are a little bit nervous at first of like going to an event or talking to somebody, that people are receptive and do want to help. And one of the things that we have seen recently, we've churning through our grant application data at NCIDEA, and just to see the number of really qualified applications from the Winston-Salem area for seed and micro just really, really increase, as well as the grant winners. So I think we're actually seeing that this is a really flourishing ecosystem. But with flourishing ecosystems, there's where you are and where you want to be. So I think one of the things I know, because the panel had chatted ahead of time, is so many great things are going on here, and we really do want to celebrate that. But kind of, what do you see as either the next phase, or what could be the next set of resources, or are there in the ecosystems or something that you go, oh, I would just wish we had that, or I see this in another city that I really wish we had this here, or you see things coming. So just kind of like what's next, or if you could press a spacebar and make something happen tomorrow to bring to the ecosystem, what would that be? Whoever wants to jump in.
Okay, I'll kick it off. So the resources that we have are fabulous. We've listed some of the spaces you can gain some resources. Janet brought up a good point. The universities really help step up and bring a pool of interns for mutually beneficial relationships. We can teach them stuff, they can teach us stuff, they can help lengthen our runway. And I know Bobby brought up also Venture Cafe, so networking events, programming, going to events. We're actually helping host Winston Starts Tech Talks the first or the third Wednesday of every month. So go to the programming, learn the programming, the connections are here. What I'd like to see a little bit more of is the community has come together and really pooled the resources. But I guess more, and we're working on it, so I'm staying on the positive flow, because we have, as women founders, received that, but we all as a community need to step up and see, in my opinion, that women in general, minorities and women, founders, need a little bit of extra help in gaining access to capital. So if I had a perfect world and I could fix that problem, we've had a lot of roundtables about it. We've gone out to NCIDEA and we had 40 women in the room, powerful, exciting women having this open conversation about this problem. What's created it sounds systemic with all the research I've done. I don't think it's intentional, but the change can be intentional. And so we're making that happen, and it's starting. So if I could push that enter button tomorrow, I'd love to solve that.
So for me, we're further along. We're in a growth stage company with Benekiva. So there's two things that I would encourage our community to look at, is how do you bridge the startup with the corporate? And that is difficult for every city. So every company, every large organization here has an innovation department. are they coming and seeking help from our startups? We've started to do that a little bit on bridging that gap with an event that we started last year that we're hopefully, Adrian and I are gonna like revamp that, called Tech Slam and Eggs. But it's an we need that opportunity. We need that corporate to have an open mindset. When you talk about innovation, look at the startup activity that's happening in your community, because it's a win-win for everyone. Your startups win because you're gonna fund somewhat, be either their customer, or if you have a VC arm for that company, you actually will help that organization and they could stay here in Winston instead of going elsewhere. And my second thing would be a lot of investment from, if you notice some of the announcements of folks that are raising money, we're getting money outside. We're still staying here, but we're getting money outside the ecosystem. So we have a lot of folks here that talk about, yes, they have connections, they have capital. Why aren't you investing in Winston-Salem companies?
I agree with everything you said. The other thing I think is that we need to have more public relations. Had I not gone to Salem College and told my professor that I was interested in 3D printing, I would have never known what Mixer was, where I interned last summer. I would have never known, had I not pitched in class, I would have never known what Techstars was. I wouldn't have known what Flywheel was. So I think it's beyond the ecosystem, getting the word out about what these startups are doing. Every day we see innovative people walking through the door of Mixer, and it's like no one knows that they're happening right here in Winston. So I think more public relations would help get the word out about what we're doing, and then eventually give us funding for what we need.
I'm going to lead off of what you both just said and say that I think, you know, one of the, obviously the most important thing to starting up a business is capital. And I think, you know, seeing that there are a number of big institutions, universities here in Winston-Salem, I think that it might be beneficial if they were to get a little bit more involved in the startup scene. I've seen similar programs at other universities where they encourage students to, you know, start up a company. They'll, instead of one semester of credits, maybe they spend one semester starting up their company. And that could be something that sort of leads to more of a ecosystem from an early age and could develop into something bigger.
I mean, not much for me to add, actually. I really would echo, I think, one thing is, which is an early stage thing, and this is the risk appetite of investors. So, and of, I guess, the big corporates too. The risk appetite here is what I've seen in North Carolina, if you compare it to New York, if you compare it to Silicon Valley. What an angel would do in San Francisco is what a VC does here. What a VC would do in San Francisco is what a private equity fund, what a VC does in San Francisco is what a, so an angel is like a VC. A VC here is like a private equity fund, and a private equity fund, you know, is even like the leveraged buyouts and so on. So I think that is really, and that is but across the state. That's not just a Winston-Salem thing, which I think the risk appetite could really change. And then one thing specifically for Winston-Salem, where I think we are seeing a change, but that will be especially for the companies who are on more growth stage, is the acquisition of tech talent. So how can we make sure that we get into this market, you know, the best coders? And we have some good schools around with good computer science programs, but how can we, you know, how can we, with Inmar, with the other like startups that need tech talent, how can we attract also young people? You know, how can we get the people from the Stanfords, from the Harvards, but also the Wake Forest, the Winston-Salem State, the Salem College, and so on? How can we keep these people and bring them in our startups here and make a space for them here? So I think that is the challenges that I would see, where I could say, you know, if I could change that by tomorrow, is everyone just has like red glasses for startups, and you know, everything is in rosa light, and they're like, I'm investing in everything, and you know, throwing money around. That was the first thing. And then that we can really get a sustainable talent pool or pipeline of talent, especially in tech.
And so NCIDEA has ecosystem partners. It's a grant that we give out to organizations across the state. Give out these grants every 2 years. And we had a meeting this week, pulling our ecosystem partners together. Margaret Collins from the Center for Creative Economy was there. And a lot of the topics that you just brought up, organizations across the state involved in entrepreneurism are bringing up for their communities. the corporations based in those towns, how do you get them connected to the ecosystem? How do you get the word out about the organizations in your town, your community that are doing really great things? Is it a technology? Do we need more technology, more listservs, databases, or is it just more gatherings where people can actually talk, share? Very similar issues that are coming up. So Josh, while you have the microphone, one of the things we wanted to chat about, not so much just specific to Winston, but to you guys. What are your like challenges that you're facing now, or what have you, or what are you hearing from your fellow entrepreneurs? Like, what are you sharing ideas on, from funding to how to get PR marketing done on absolutely no budget? What are you hearing a lot about? But one of the things that I think is, and you had already mentioned the investment crowdfunding grant, but that might be new to some people. So maybe just to share a little bit about why you, your thoughts on it, and then how it's a good fit for your company.
Yeah, sure. So I think crowdfunding is really unique in terms of its versatility. So there's multiple ways that you can crowdfund, and it really depends on your company's specific needs. Most people have heard of things like Kickstarter. And so if you're creating a new innovative consumer product, something like Kickstarter could be a good option for you, where you raise money based on a product or something that you're going to give back to people. There's also other forms. So if you're trying to scale, for example, you can crowdfund a revenue share program. So basically, this is for people that see and believe in your company. They can invest in your growth and return a percentage of your revenue, and that could work for your company depending on what type of company you are and what stage. And obviously there's other forms like equity, where you could raise capital for actual small percentage of your company. And that's actually the way that we're currently doing it through that grant, the NCIDEA grant. We're using a program called Local Stake, and Local Stake is a platform for which to raise capital on. And for us, we're doing an equity raise, so we're looking to raise money from accredited investors or people that can add sort of strategic value outside of their cash. But again, it all depends on your company. There's a form of crowdfunding that could be right for you, and it's also customizable towards what you're trying to build.
I don't know if any of you have other thoughts that are, again, if they're hot button issues or things that you're, challenges that you're currently trying to solve, or maybe you've actually solved one, you want to share your solution.
So on the marketing side, where a lot of us, we don't have huge marketing budgets, actually zero marketing budgets. What we've done that's worked really well is we're thought leaders in our space, because I've been in corporate for a long time. So we've taken that and have gone to different events, and we get invited to speak at those events. We're focused right now on the Benikiva side is on insurance. So when we get invited to speak at one conference, they like the topic, then we get invited to the second, the third, the fourth. So this past conference, my entire trip was paid for. I had a booth, I had 2 speaking engagements, and guess what that does? That's free marketing. I post things on LinkedIn, I gave them kudos, they benefit, we benefit as a startup. So I think it's finding those opportunities and leveraging social media, especially LinkedIn, if you're doing B2B, has been very powerful for our company, our brand. It's getting us visibility to organizations that typically we wouldn't run into, but because we're so visible on LinkedIn, they see us, they seek us out, and we're getting sales out of that.
That's a really good point. I just wanted to tack on to say as a CEO, essentially, of a startup, my whole, job surrounds around the runway. How much capital, how much money do we have to make this happen until we take off, right? So I think that's a challenge for every single founder. Depending on what stage they're at, that looks different. But for us, reaching out to free resources, help, micro grants, it takes us to the next milestone and helps us move forward. So having an advisor pool has helped us kind of jump those challenges, having, free resources from PR to marketing, going to a lot of the workshops kind of help us get over those challenges. But marketing is always a challenge. It comes down to funding, money, and then how you manage that. So that's, I think, our biggest challenge. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of it thus far.
Can I add one more comment? Okay. So one more comment that I think a lot of entrepreneurs, because I was a victim of that too. Runway is so important. And in order to get that runway, you have to go through a crap load of programming. Sometimes it seems like it's a ton. So I think from a challenge perspective, time for entrepreneurs is your most valuable resource, but you need to have runway. So I would, from a challenge perspective, is how do you do that runway and then also feel like you're supporting your ecosystem? Because sometimes you may not have time to work in your company because you're doing so much activities to help support the ecosystem that's supporting you. So I think there's a good balance that entrepreneurs have to have, or else you're just going to be, you're so busy and you're spinning and spinning for that runway, but you're not working in your business. You don't have time to do that, especially if you're smaller teams.
And I'd echo that. My biggest challenge right now is finding time and being organized and knowing what my next milestone is. So that's part of what New Ventures is helping us to figure out, is really we have certain milestones we'll have to reach throughout the program. But for me, I work full time and I'm a single mom. So just trying to find the time to even develop the business and focus on it. Time is a huge factor in that, and then just keeping organized and knowing who you've talked to, who you've networked with, what each person that you speak to has a follow-up that you have to do, and they have something that you either need to connect with the next person or you deliver to them. So it's not just let's work on the idea all the time and let it just go, but there's a lot of effort and hustle that has to go into that. So.
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on company, right? If you're B2B, if you're going to enterprise, and we are actually we are B2C and B2B, and we are hyper local, right? We are marketplace, so we need to turn on market by market. And I think one of the things which was a challenge for us, but it's the PR, right? How can we get free marketing? How can we get on the press? And one thing what I have seen, which is great about this place, so what we actually did last week, we did a ribbon cutting with the mayor. I'd if no one listens to me, well, people might listen to the mayor. So I worked really closely with the chamber, and we got it together. And the mayor showed up, did the ribbon cutting, Spectrum News was there, and so on. What was a side effect, and I kind of want to bridge this, is what I think one of the other challenges, just jumping in that point, what we have here a little bit is, what happened, it was a piece on Swipe-By and our ribbon cutting, but it was Winston-Salem is becoming a startup hotspot. Like that was the headline of the news articles that came about it. And I think which is one thing which would be great if I'm segueing into that, would be great if we see that here, and we see it already, is really when the resources all come together and really make a lot of noise about everything that happens. Because the only thing how Winston-Salem becomes the sexiest startup place if there's a lot of sexy startups, but you need to know about them. And so what I think is happening already, but and this is also about the corporates. If people say, if I take people at Winston-Salem, they're like, what is Winston-Salem? Well, then I will say RJ Reynolds, if I say Texas Pete, if I say Inmar, right? And then if we even pool the area bigger and talk about the triad, there is a lot of really global stage companies here. And if we can celebrate or kind of leverage the brand equity of the big companies and then celebrate all the small startups to really say, hey, Winston-Salem or the triad, there is a lot happening here. I think that will be one of the amazing things I think which we need to do, and is kind of segueing into the marketing idea, is really we need to push really heavy to the press, and we really, I think of all of the startups as one of the things, because it gives us free marketing, but it also puts every time a spotlight on the ecosystem, and that I think brings more people starting companies, that brings more people in here, that brings people more investing here, maybe even have local invest. And so that was a win that we had, but I think it's something where we need to see more, but we're getting there.
Yeah, I would also agree with what Carl you said and Janet what you said about, so when you're a young startup, you have no money, and really you need to figure out a way, how do you grow with no money? And I think really the answer is networking. And so opening up more and more lines of dialogue with other people and just constantly be reaching out. So one of the things that we did that was successful in the early days was that we sort of did a massive outreach campaign. And so we just started conversation after conversation with people, telling them what we're doing and what we want to do. And you never know what that connection could bring you. And it also brings you a bit of sort of free PR in that, you know, you're telling somebody about yourself, and, you know, it's possible that that person might tell somebody else, and you just don't know what could happen. And another way that that you can do that effectively is on social media. So for us, again, with no marketing budget, no advertising budget whatsoever, we had to figure out, well, how do we get awareness? And one of the ways that we did was that we sort of gave away our product to people on social media that were in our market, and that worked really well because, you know, when you connect with somebody that's in your market and say, hey, you know, we're a new company, here's our product, this is what we're doing, you know, it'd be great if you maybe could tell some people about it. and that's a super scalable solution that, you know, there's zillions of people on social media. So I think that that's one of the, you know, that's certainly a challenge and one of the ways that you might be able to help overcome it.
Just to add for a moment, I know I said that we manage that well, but we as a community manage that well. So keeping the runway long, capital can come in different forms, right? So we all like that green capital, but it can come in programming, it can come in resources, it can come in connections to customers, free PR, it can come in, you know, a cohort or other businesses working, either at Flywheel, Winston Starts, Venture Cafe, just working together. I can't tell you how many times I went to Carl's desk and said, hey, Carl, we got this challenge. You are so great at design, et cetera, what's your take on it, right? So not only do we need resources and connections, but we also give back. So Carl takes that 5 or 10 minutes. We go have a coffee or a Updog kombucha and, you know, hang out and help each other. The other thing is I'm very awkward on camera, and I know that about myself. So trying to learn where you can improve and take advantage of the programming, et cetera, and applying to a camera workshop from NCIDEA in July. So when you see me after July, I'll be much better on camera. But just taking advantage of the programming and resources.
I can't even imagine how much better you'll be because you're so good already. So we do want to take questions, but first, just wanted to get some feedback from the panel if you have any. So one of the things that I hear a lot about is work-life balance, and I just listened to a podcast about the Wall Street Journal Future of Everything conference when the co-founder of Reddit, the founder of Slack, the founder of Basecamp, they're all talking about boundaries, and this is more about corporate, but like boundaries, how you have to shut off, and even about their own tools. That's great. I mean, it's not really happening in the corporate workplace, but when you're an entrepreneur, it's so much harder because there's also like the hustle. You got to hustle. But I know we were talking that wellness is getting more, people are paying more attention to it, but is it lip service? People are like, yes, wellness is important too, but still hustle. So I don't know what your thoughts on it, how you manage it, or any tips for people in the room or people who might be listening later.
I'm going to pass this one to this one because she makes me get sleep and she also makes me do something else. I'm going to tell them what you make me do.
Someone else want to go?
No, we're accountability partners, so we also do a lot of business while we drive to hot yoga. We've done CrossFit.
She makes me do hot yoga at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But I'm joking. It does. Focusing on your
Yeah,
health,
I mean,
so.
I think you've got, I travel quite a bit, and we're all very stretched, and that hustle is real. You can't just say, oh, 8 to 5, that's my entrepreneurship timeline, and I literally wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is look at my email. When I go to the bathroom, I look at my email. I'm on email and stuff all the time, but finding those nuggets of time where we can fit in wellness, and we have to fit it in. Like this morning, I wanted to make sure I spent enough time with my daughter, and it's nap time for her. That's why I'm here. But I mean, you just have to schedule pieces, time block around what's most important. Because we're not doing this for us. We're doing this for a lot of us. I'm doing this for my daughter. So.
And I agree with you too on that. So one of the biggest things I was told was to protect my time, and that's one of my biggest assets is my time. So whatever I'm doing at that moment, that's what I'm focused on, and I'm not looking at other emails or focused on. If I'm at work, I'm focused on work. If it's after work, then I'm focused on the business. Or I have my son the last half of the week, so those days are for him, and my partner knows not to schedule meetings or anything like that while I'm with my son. So I think it's just blocking out your chunks of time and doing time management. But I'm a big advocate of work-life balance, and so I work hard, but I also make sure that I have events and things scheduled for my son so he knows what to look forward to and he knows what's on my plate. So when this last semester, it was just insane the number of hours I was at school and work. So I kept telling him, like, let me just get through this, and then we have this lined up, this lined up, this lined up. And so he knew that he wasn't on the back burner for my attention, but he knew that there were certain times where I couldn't be fully focused on being his mom and checking every answer on his homework. I had a huge support system with my parents and my family, so they jumped in and helped me and made sure he had his homework done when I went to go pick him up and things like that. So I think it's just protect your time and know what you can do and what you can't do.
I would agree. I think protecting your time is the most valuable asset we all have, right? And I think that in terms of wellness and preventing or reducing burnout, I think that consistency for routines is a must. So whether it's whatever works for you. For me, one of the things as an example is I turn my phone on airplane mode at like 11 o'clock, 10:30 o'clock. And that's like my cutoff point. At that point, I'm not getting pinged for anything, and it's like I'm able to actually relax a bit during that time. And I think that's critical that you do that on a consistent and ongoing basis, and whatever it is that works for you. But you do need to have periods of disconnect. If you're constantly hustling, you may be hustling, but you may not be hustling on the right thing. So, it's crucial to sort of take a step back and see things from a wider perspective at times, and that's something that I think is ultimately important.
I think I have I have a story to share also. Is when I started SwipeBuy, at the same time, so a good 2 years ago, I co-founded another company that was headquartered in Germany and launched its product in Cape Town, South Africa. So having two companies always is fun, but having them on kind of spread out across 3 continents is even more fun. And what I did is I was 1 week here and 1 walk in Cape Town. So I was flying every weekend. I had 2 red eyes going over there, and then 2 coming next week and 2 red eyes back. The one thing I think where I want to go this, and the first thing is, but I think all of us, we do this because we love it. Right? So I think the moment, even if you work hard, if you work 100 hours a week or another week just 10 hours or whatsoever, if you really love it, it first of all it doesn't hurt. It's you really enjoy what you do. And then I think the other thing is enjoy the little moments. So for example, whenever I was in that plane, I took the time and I looked outside and really said, hey, how cool is that I can do all of this. Or when I'm doing things here and we have we get an order on our platform and I text the customer, ask for feedback. It's kind of use time to celebrate a little bit and use time to enjoy moments and not just use time to work. I think because I don't have kids, I don't even have family here, so for me really there's nothing else to do besides work. But it should be like fun, and it should be enjoyable, and it should be celebrations. And I think that then really decreases the stress, that makes it even more fun to do what you do. And there will be up and downs, but I think, celebrate little successes and, sometimes just look out of the window, or when you are on your, if you got just, like if you sold a product, celebrate the little success and enjoy the moments and really inhale them. And that I think then takes, even if it's a hassle, it really leverages it and it makes it more enjoyable.
I love that look out the window. It's going to be my new moment to just appreciate things. It's a look out the window moment. I know we're getting near the end, so I wanted to make it available if people have questions. I think Adrian is going to pass the mic around so that the questions get recorded as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. My first question is, how many have a business model canvas?
We do.
Yeah, I mean, we started with one.
Okay,
We have a lean canvas. A lean canvas.
okay,
Yeah, we also as well have a canvas.
We started with one.
okay. And then my next question, and my last, is how many have more than 2 employees?
So I guess the definition is also what always call an employee, right? So we have a 5-person, almost full-time team in India doing our development. But locally here we don't. But I think if you add contractors and so on, we would be currently having like 6 people working. But on W-2s, right now there's actually no one, not even me.
Yeah, we're kind of the same way. So really there's only 2 full-time people working on our project, but we use a host of contractors that are critical to our success. And these people are not necessarily, it depends, the workload for them depends on what's happening. So we have a contract team that does our development. We have a marketing associate. We have a virtual assistant. And so there's, a team maybe of 6 or 7 of us, but only 2 of us are actually here full time.
And same here. We have 2 of us working on the business, but we've used interns at CoLab and places like that to get projects accomplished.
Yeah, we have 22. So our teams are spread between Nepal. That's where our innovation team is. And I go visit there quite often, a team in Armenia, and then we have a team in Des Moines and a team in Winston-Salem.
And for Rent Assured, we don't have paid employees yet. That is in our forecast. But we do have a large team. So we have 5 interns. We have a team of Nepal developers, 2 full-time, 1 part-time. And then we have 1 full-time founder and a part-time founder.
So I have a question. I'm Margaret Collins, Center for Creative Economy. Can you tell us the role that mentors have played in your development? And are you currently working with mentors? And how can the ecosystem improve on our ability to deliver mentors to help you?
We have been working with mentors my whole previous career. Currently, I think mentors are important. And mentors can be anyone, right? So you can reach out to any person that can give you great advice and that you trust to help move your company upward right. So I would consider Amy a mentor. We have Luann Flanders-Stack, Peter. At Winston Starts, we actually have assigned mentors. So besides Steve and Betsy, we have Brent Hillary with a local company, Royce 2. With CoLab, I have someone who we still have on board is Gary Smith. He's a retired exec from Gerber. Without these mentors stepping up and helping us, even just being a sound of reason or to say, hey, let's have a cup of coffee, just a pulse check. And that also comes along with wellness, having that support system when you really are at a position where you need to multiply yourself, but you don't necessarily have the resources, they become a part of your team as well.
Yeah, I mean, mentors are like, I feel like they're like the lifeline support of any organization. So you don't, what's unique is I'm a mentor to many, but I get mentored a lot. So it's just having that open mind frame. When you are a mentor, it doesn't mean that you can't get mentored. You're always, if you're a constant state of change and learning, you always are going to have mentors. So we are very fortunate to be we have a satellite office in Winston-Salem, I live here. So we have great mentors here. We have great mentors all over the US and even all over the globe. And if it wasn't for them, as Gina said, they're our sounding board. They give us advice. They give us clients. So it's been good. Mentors are very important.
And that's what I would say. I wouldn't be in business if it weren't for my mentors. Allison Francisco at Salem College was the one who told us about Techstars. She's the one who pushed us to pitch. We've stayed in constant contact with her. We meet at CWeb every week. So she's been a huge influence. Alan here at Mixer, he's helped me with any type of technical questions that I had as far as prototyping, patents. He's helped me research patents and things like that. And then also Gina here, literally a week or two before we pitched for new ventures, we got in contact with Gina and she just helped us. She tore apart our pitch deck, but it was exactly what we needed. It was, I mean, if you ever need a pitch coach, she's awesome. We wouldn't be here without them. And not only mentors, but some of them I consider coaches. It's people that kind of step in and say, hey, did you think about this or that? And then they step out. So it's just, the mentors I consider the long-term people that are invested, and we wouldn't be here without them.
Yeah, the same goes for me. Mentors have been critical in everything that we've done and everything that has taken us to where we are right now. I think without having a team of mentors or people that you can throw ideas at and can give you honest feedback, you wouldn't really get very far. For us, we're constantly searching out new mentors in new areas of business that we're maybe not as strong in, and we've had the pleasure of meeting a few new mentors here in Winston-Salem. Peter Marsh, Adrian, Amy, the ecosystem here for finding people that can really help you is great, and I think that anybody that is thinking of pursuing a business, I think your best bet to start off is to sort of try to find those mentors, people that you can people that you trust, and people that have a valid opinion on things to get sort of some solid feedback. I think is critical.
Yes, and the only thing I would add is if you think about mentors, but also peers, right? If you think about as a founder, there's a lot of issues you cannot discuss with your employees because you put more burden on them than by discussing it. You cannot discuss it with your contractors. Probably your friends are already bored by that you talk about the company all the time. So the only people you can really discuss these issues with and can have an open discussion is on one hand mentors, and I could just echo that, and we had millions and we wouldn't be here without them. But I think also peers, right? Because they're often in the same situation, they have been through the exact same problems, just a little bit different to their business. And so having that pool of mentors and peers to let off steam sometimes, but really discuss issues you cannot discuss with anyone else is really important.
So obviously at NCIDEA, through our programs and grants, we work with a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of companies. And we are not, we've tried to be really careful or just clear that we don't do mentor matching. There's some organizations that do like true mentor matching, where you have a set expectation, you meet with them once a week, once a month, for X amount of time, so on and so forth, and you're specifically matched. So we have lots of advisors, vetted advisors. So more of the, and one of the things we realized is that as we add more programs and grants, like the micro grants, we are working now with 30 more grant recipient companies a year. Our accelerator program really focused on customer discovery labs is a different format now. So we have, I think, triple the number of companies that go through. And we realized that as we had been we became a bottleneck between connecting founders with advisors/mentors, and realizing that especially as we work with even more earlier stage companies, advisors and even the peers are so important. So one of the things that we are trying to do is figure out how do we get out of the way and let the advisors who say, hey, we really want to work with companies, we understand early stage companies, we want to be here if someone has a question, and then the companies themselves who can do that kind of peer be an ear when someone needs to vent or to say, hey, like I just ran into that same issue. So we are trying to figure out the best way, not the best way, a better way to do that. So one is we're launched a new community platform, so kind of technology, like, all right, you can connect directly with advisors. You don't have to say, hey, Amy, who has experience in distribution for a beverage company? It's like, well, there are advisors on there. If they're on the platform, you can go connect with them. Same thing with peers, but we know it's not just a technology thing. I mean, there are lots of these platforms out there that try to do a better job of connecting mentors, advisors, and founders. So we understand it's going to take effort on our part to do that, but then also to have more events, programming, and hopefully have more ways for our companies and advisors to just organically connect. So we're trying to figure that out too, because we realize how important it is, and it's great that we give grants out. Like, we're happy, we know that people have the money, and that's really, really important. But we also know it's those connections as well. So as we, again, have more companies in our, alumni companies and active in our grants and programs, we're trying to actually figure out how to facilitate those connections without getting in the way. So we're trying things. We don't necessarily know if we're sure we can continue to tweak them, but we're open to suggestions on that too.
You guys talked a lot about free PR and free marketing. What would it need, or what would be your choices of marketing once you're able to pay for marketing? Like, how would you actually choose to market yourselves if you had a budget for it?
I will take the lead for our company. I think that's more industry specific, company specific. So for us, we're a software as a service. So really getting in front of our target audience, landlord and property managers who own 25 to 100 units, own or manage. So that is based foundationally on networking events and a strong digital marketing campaign. We're going to go play where they play and let them know where our services are, and again, online and in person. So that's what ours look like. But it starts with our website. So even here, all of you are going to go to the Rent Assured website afterwards, right? And social media. So it'll look much different now versus at the end of next week if we stay on track because we receive some grant money. So before you be like, oh, that's a good website, but it really doesn't market to you, it doesn't funnel you, it doesn't necessarily convert you, it converts a few people. So it starts with our presence online for us, and we're already moving towards that.
So for us, there's three things. First is trade shows, and some of the industry-specific trade shows, they are very expensive. So it's being very diligent with your marketing dollars to see where it fits. Trade shows, publications within that speaking to our insurance audience. So we speak to a lot of the innovation folks, as well as the claims folks, because we're a claims transformation platform. So it's what are they reading? So it's not much of a social media play, but it's more on the journal play. And then third is we need to start creating video content that's professional. I do a lot of like amateur videos, but we need to kind of like step up and do more professional video.
So I think that question depends on the type of business. My brother has his own business, and he can do most of his advertising free through Facebook and Instagram and places like that. For us, I think starting out, we'll need the full reign of marketing tools, especially online digital marketing. We will need to go to trade shows just to get partnerships and things like that started. But eventually, once we have a product that goes live, we'll need the social media and email marketing, things like that.
So we're a physical product, and we're a consumer product. And for us, having the awareness on social media is really everything. Yeah, sorry. So we're a consumer product, and with that, awareness is really everything for us. And we've been fortunate to, I'll keep speaking louder. We've been fortunate to, have a bit of traction online with our influencer network and things like that. And that's, we've been able to do that with really no budget. But the opportunities that exist for paid advertising, Facebook ads, for example, Instagram ads, Pinterest, it would be a big one for us because most of our customers are female and in the right age range for Pinterest. So it does depend on your specific market and what your type of product you are. But for us, if we had a larger budget, it would primarily go to social spend.
I mean, for us, one thing is we're fortunate enough is we do curbside service, so we have branded parking spots in front of all the restaurants. So we have marketing at point of sale, which is normally one of the things you always try to achieve. But in our business, it's really similar to Uber, to Grubhub, to basically every app out there. We need dollars to buy the customer because we need to get you, or I would love to give you $20 to have your first order free. Then you will be a repeat customer. But for us, really, we need money to buy customers so you can see the experience, hopefully love the experience, and come back. And then reaching them, we do most on social media, and we spend we spend currently a couple $100 a week on social media to market to people, and with more money, we would just increase that budget. But we are not, for us, I don't think the TV, print, out of home is not really that relevant.
Adrian for having us, and to thank everyone for coming. And I'm just going to make a plug for NCIDEA. So we do have, I manage two grant programs, our seed grant and our micro grants. So our seed grants are $50,000 grants. We give out about 12 a year. Micro grants are $10,000 grants. We give out about 30 a year. They're in the same application cycle. So our fall applications, I think we've set it on August 12th, the day they're going to open, and I believe it's Monday, September 9th that the application will close. We're going to start doing info sessions, including one in Winston, at the end of July, beginning of August, though I have take meetings to answer questions all year round about it. So if you have any questions about if your company could be a good fit for the Cedar Micro Grant, just let me know. And as well, NCIDEA is putting on our summer series. So every Wednesday except for July 3rd, we are having speakers and networking on different topics related to or of interest to entrepreneurs and startups. They are in Durham, but if you plan on being in Durham at all, on a Wednesday around lunchtime, we have pizza. Yeah, carpool. So just check that out. It's a good way just to get to network with people in the larger North Carolina ecosystem, but not that far. So check us out and see if there are any topics that are of interest to you. And again, thank you, Adrian, for having us.